Chosen one, the reaction says it all. What have you become? People are stunned because your new boundaries hit like fire, visible and non-negotiable. And understand this, these boundaries aren't your final form, they are the foundation. What comes next will dismantle every structure built on your silence. You used to be the one waiting outside the gates, hoping someone would let you in, into a life, into love, into respect. You'd stand there in the cold, wondering what you needed to change about yourself to be worthy of entry. But somewhere along the line, something in you snapped. Not the kind of snap that breaks you into pieces, the kind that breaks you open into something more powerful than you ever imagined possible. You didn't just grow, you underwent a complete spiritual metamorphosis. And now you're not knocking on doors anymore. You are the door, you are the gate, you are the entire security system. That's what's rattling people to their core. You used to crave approval like it was oxygen. You'd shrink yourself down, dim your light, make yourself digestible just to feel seen by anyone, and everyone was comfortable with that version of you. The moment you realized you were the prize, the foundation, the blessing nobody could duplicate, you shifted the power dynamic permanently. You became the judge of your own court, and not just of others but of yourself too. You started discerning your energy with surgical precision. You started calling out the games before the first move even happened. And listen to this carefully, because it matters deeply. People were only powerful in your life when you had no boundaries. Control only existed because you kept handing over the keys to your inner world. But the second you took those keys back, the second you changed every lock, entire worlds tilted off their axis. What most people don't realize is that nobody got demoted in this process. Everyone stayed exactly the same. You're the one who evolved into something that's impossible to manipulate anymore. You're not bitter about what happened. You're just no longer blind to the truth. And now that you see clearly, you're not running around trying to be accepted. You're standing still, firmly rooted, watching who's brave enough to approach you with respect or not at all. This is just the beginning of what's about to unfold in your life, because your no is about to become something legendary. Your no used to be soft. It was hesitant. It came wrapped in apologies like it needed permission just to exist. You'd say it hoping not to offend anyone, worried someone would leave if you stood firm. But that version of you is dead and buried with no resurrection coming. Now when you say no, it doesn't just close a door. It shakes the entire building down to its foundation. It doesn't sound like rejection. It sounds like a divine verdict being handed down. It's not just a word anymore. It's a whole frequency shift that people feel in their chest before you even finish the sentence. Everyone knows instantly that access just got cut off from something real, something that used to be freely available without any reciprocation required. And that realization hits people like cold water to the face. Your new no is clean. It's surgical in its precision. It comes from a place of inner peace, not emotional chaos or reactivity. You're not reactive anymore. You're resolved. And that quiet power makes people nervous in ways nobody can quite articulate out loud. People are not used to you protecting your energy like this. The expectation was always that you would bend, that you would overextend yourself, that you would say yes even when it drained every ounce of energy you had. But you finally saw the real cost. You realized that peace without boundaries isn't actually peace at all. It's a performance where you slowly die inside while everyone else stays comfortable. When you say no now, it doesn't just stop someone from crossing a line. It forces people to feel their own entitlement rising to the surface. It forces them to feel their own dependence on you saying yes. That's why defensiveness erupts so quickly. Your new no is spiritual truth, dressed as a simple sentence. It exposes everything nobody wanted to face about themselves. People who once thrived off your indecision now feel completely disoriented in your presence, because clarity can't be manipulated. A firm boundary can't be twisted into something else. What used to be your weak spot is now your weapon, not to harm anyone, but to protect yourself. That no you say today isn't rejection of another person, it's self-respect speaking fluently in a language most people never learned. And translation is no longer possible for those who refuse to understand basic respect. But wait until you see what happened to your internal system. You didn't just heal in some pretty social media quote kind of way. You went through the dark, the lonely, the raw parts of yourself, and rewired your entire internal system from the ground up. You stopped reacting to old triggers that used to control you. You stopped allowing access to people who only showed up when something was needed from you. And you didn't just set boundaries, you installed filters at every entry point. Now your spirit has a whole firewall around it. People can't just walk back into your life and pick up where everything left off like nothing happened. Everyone gets hit with your energetic security system the moment they try. You sense motives before sentences finish forming. You feel energy shifts before patterns have time to develop. You catch manipulation in real time as it's happening. You became spiritually encrypted at the highest level, and that confuses people who used to know exactly how to push your buttons. There was a whole playbook written on how to control you, but now none of those old tactics work anymore. People will say you're different, that you're distant, that you've changed, but the truth is your old openness came from survival mode. It came from needing to be liked by everyone. You've outgrown that need completely. If this message speaks to your soul, hype this video so other chosen ones can discover it. Now you're not trying to be understood by everybody in your life. You're making sure you're not misunderstood by yourself, and that internal clarity protects you from external chaos like nothing else can. People try the old tactics on you, the guilt trips, the passive aggression, the fake concern wrapped in manipulation, and nothing happens, no reaction, no energy given, just silence and a door that won't unlock no matter how hard anyone tries. This isn't just personal growth we're talking about. This is spiritual evolution at its finest. You're not operating from trauma anymore. You're operating from truth. You're not fueled by fear of abandonment. You're guided by discernment and inner knowing. And because of that fundamental shift, not everyone can sit with you anymore. People are finding out too late that access was only granted because you hadn't upgraded your protection yet. Now that you have upgraded everything, it's not that you're guarded in an unhealthy way, it's that you're wise, and wisdom has a way of reflecting truth back at people, which brings us to the mirror effect. You didn't lose people because you changed into someone worse. You lost people because your growth revealed who everyone really was underneath the masks. You became a mirror, clear, unfiltered, unflinching in its reflection, and most people aren't ready to see themselves like that, especially when entire personalities have been built around avoiding accountability at all costs. Your presence started making people uncomfortable, not because you were loud or dramatic about anything, but because you were real in a world full of pretense. You didn't sugarcoat reality anymore. You didn't over-explain yourself into exhaustion. You simply stood in your truth without apology, and that truth lit up all the parts people didn't want to deal with inside themselves. Your peace made their chaos obvious to everyone watching. Your self-respect made their manipulation tactics obvious. Your boundaries made their emotional laziness crystal clear for all to see. The moment you stopped rescuing everyone, enabling destructive behavior, overextending yourself for people who never reciprocated, people started pulling away from you, not because you did anything wrong to them, but because you interrupted the pattern everyone had grown comfortable with. You stopped playing the role that was written for you in their script, the fixer who solved everyone's problems, the forgiver who gave infinite chances, the scapegoat who took blame for things you didn't cause, the backup plan who waited around while everyone explored other options. When you stepped out of that role completely, people were left alone with themselves, and that silence was deafening to their ears. People call you too sensitive, too much, too cold now, But your clarity scares everyone who benefited from your confusion. When you say no now, you're not just setting a boundary for yourself. You're revealing the dependency others had on your yes. You're exposing the emotional shortcuts people have been taking for their entire lifetimes. You didn't just change superficially. You became reflective at your core. And not everyone wants to be reflected back to themselves. Most people want to be reaffirmed in their delusions, even if it means staying stuck forever. But you don't play that game anymore. You're not here to coddle egos or protect false identities people have constructed. And many people knew exactly what was happening to you. Your waking up just wasn't expected to actually occur. Your silence was counted on as permanent. Your guilt was relied upon as a control mechanism. Your fear was treated as a guarantee. But now that you see clearly, you can't unsee what's real, and the exposure your energy causes can't be undone by anyone. You're not the villain in this story. You're the mirror. And people are running from what gets reflected when they stand next to you. You didn't become difficult overnight. You just stopped making your suffering the cushion for other people's dysfunction and refusal to grow. For so long you were the one holding everything together while falling apart yourself. You made excuses for people who never grew up emotionally. You dimmed your light so nobody would feel small in comparison. You bit your tongue so others wouldn't have to sit with the discomfort of their own behavior being called out. And it drained you completely of life force. But now you're done bleeding so others can feel whole at your expense. You're done sacrificing your mental peace just so people can avoid facing their own mess. You've stopped being the emotional sponge who soaks up everybody's problems while your own problems go completely ignored. You realize that being selfless without boundaries isn't noble or virtuous. It's self-abandonment in its purest form. Now that you've reclaimed your space and energy, people are rattled to their core. Not because you've become mean or heartless, but because you're no longer available to be used as a resource. You don't flinch when someone tries to guilt-trip you into doing something. You don't scramble to fix what you didn't break. You don't lower your standards to keep fake peace alive. And that disruption, that refusal to fold under pressure, it triggers people deeply. People were used to you playing small, so everyone else could feel big. Your silence was expected as standard. Your patience was assumed to be infinite. Your loyalty was guaranteed, even when it cost you your well-being. Now that you've pulled back, stepped up, and said enough is enough, people feel exposed in ways that make them uncomfortable. Your distance shines a spotlight on all the ways growing up has been avoided for years. Your boundaries make their excuses look weak and childish. You're not asking for too much from anyone. You're just no longer settling for too little. That's the real difference. And people who only loved the version of you that tolerated everything won't know how to handle the version that requires basic respect. You're not in the circus anymore. You walked away from the performance, packed up your emotional stage, and took your light with you. People aren't mad at your change. The anger comes from no longer being able to benefit from your self-neglect and emotional abandonment. What's powerful about this shift is how it separated the real from the fake instantly. The people who genuinely cared about you stepped up their game when they saw your boundaries. The people who were just using you got angry and disappeared. Your boundaries became a sorting mechanism that did the work for you. You didn't have to figure out who was real anymore. Your boundaries revealed it automatically. You used to carry energy that quietly begged, please like me, please accept me. Not out of desperation, but because deep down you were still unlearning the toxic idea that love had to be earned through overgiving, over-explaining, overextending yourself past your limits. So you made yourself overly available to everyone. You tolerated flaky behavior from people who didn't respect your time. You justified bad actions with excuses you created in your own mind. You gave chance after chance, hoping someone would finally see your heart without stepping all over it. But something in you flipped like a switch. Maybe it was betrayal that cut too deep. Maybe it was burnout that left you empty. Maybe it was just the final time you cried over being treated like an option by someone you made a priority. Whatever it was, it activated the part of you that realized your worth was never supposed to be a negotiation, and now your whole energy has changed at a fundamental level that people can feel. You're no longer out here hoping to be liked by everyone you meet. You're not bending yourself into uncomfortable shapes to be palatable. You're not softening your tone to seem less intense or threatening. That old version of you, the one with the open window policy where anyone could enter, is gone forever. What stands now is a fortress, still full of love, yes, but protected, guarded, aware of what's trying to enter. The same people who used to breadcrumb you with minimal attention now feel completely blocked. The ones who used to guilt-trip you with silent treatments now get silence back that feels absolutely final. Ghosting doesn't get a reaction from you anymore. It gets a permanent exit with the door locked behind them. Passive aggression and fake vulnerability don't work on you anymore. You don't entertain potential like you used to. You measure consistency over time. You don't decode mixed signals anymore. You delete them immediately. You don't chase, plead, or beg anyone for clarity. You observe patterns. And if the energy doesn't match your standards, you leave without a second thought. That shift in you isn't arrogance or ego. It's alignment with your true self. You're no longer hoping someone will eventually treat you right. You're making sure only people who already know how to treat others right get a seat at your table. Your boundaries are no longer flexible guidelines. Your boundaries are now prerequisites for entry. You're not explaining your worth to anyone anymore. You're enforcing it through your actions. Either come correct with respect, or don't come at all. And if that seems harsh to people who are used to you accepting the bare minimum, that's a problem you no longer solve for them. You finally understand your energy is currency, with real value, and you're no longer giving discounts to anyone. People who once had unlimited access to you now have to earn their way back in through changed behavior. You're unavailable in ways that shock people. You're selective in ways that make people uncomfortable. You're discerning in ways that break the understanding people built around your constant availability. Messages used to get immediate responses now read receipts appear with hours of silence. Hours of venting used to be absorbed without question. Now you're redirecting people to actual solutions, or simply saying that sounds tough, without taking on their emotional baggage as your own. The shock is visible on faces when you don't jump to solve problems that aren't yours anymore, when you don't immediately accommodate last-minute plans that disrespect your time, when you don't rearrange your entire schedule to fit someone else's chaos. People are learning in real time that access to you is earned now through respect and reciprocity, that your time has actual value, that your energy isn't an all-you-can-eat buffet where everyone helps themselves. You're not acting brand new like people keep saying. You're finally acting like someone who knows that deserving to take up space is a birthright, not a privilege. You're no longer walking around as a watered-down version of yourself, just to keep other people comfortable in their smallness. And that shift has people talking behind your back. Everyone will say you're acting different. That success changed you. That healing made you distant and cold. But the truth is, you finally dropped the mask you were wearing for everyone else. You stopped faking humility for people who confused your silence with weakness. You're not cold, you're clear, crystal clear about who you are, what you allow in your space, and what you absolutely refuse to tolerate anymore. You used to carry everyone's emotions like responsibility belonged to you. You used to be afraid of setting boundaries because the fear was that people would leave you alone. But now you've learned that if someone can't handle your wholeness, staying in your life was never part of the plan. People miss the version of you that was easy to manipulate, easy to guilt, easy to access at any hour. The one who said yes out of fear and tolerated chaos out of unhealed trauma. But that version died the moment you realized your peace was non-negotiable. Now let me put you onto something real. Destiny Engine. I built this because I was done watching chosen ones get dragged through betrayal, isolation and attacks while their enemies strutted around unchecked. I want to help you accelerate the speed of your divine justice and step fully into your purpose. And the beauty of it, you don't even have to lift a finger. DAMNNNN takes their downfall and flips it into your rise. This isn't another meditation app. It's declassified consciousness technology, the same mind programming tools your enemies once used to install fear, competition and scarcity, re-engineered to restore your sovereignty and align you with the cooperative upgraded operating framework. It generates personalized sequences mapped to your divine purpose. The hardest thing you'll do is put on headphones, press play and watch your enemies keep digging their own grave. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your destiny engine for $1 today and turn everything they did to break you into fuel for your rise. Link in the description. You didn't evolve to show off to anyone. You evolved to survive and thrive. Your old self was exhausting to maintain, always adjusting to others, always explaining yourself repeatedly, always giving people the benefit of the doubt, while bleeding yourself dry in the process. Now you don't chase closure from people who can't give you consistency. You don't beg to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You know who you are deep in your bones, and that knowledge is enough. And let's be real, some people don't hate the new you because you changed for the worse. The hatred comes from you finding the strength to become someone who is impossible to manipulate, drain or define by their standards. You stopped entertaining spiritual squatters in your life, people who never brought any value but always expected space and energy. Your new frequency doesn't tolerate nonsense disguised as loyalty or love. You don't do emotional gymnastics to prove you care about someone anymore. You're not available for confusion, half-effort or chaos wrapped in charming words. You're done playing small to be digestible to people with small mindsets. You're not rude, you're real. Let everyone talk. Let the story get twisted in their favor. You don't owe anyone a performance of softness at the expense of your soul. You finally act like you deserve to exist fully in your power, and that reality is what's making people so deeply uncomfortable. What's fascinating is how your presence alone now commands a different level of respect automatically. You speak with a different weight behind your words. You hold yourself with a certainty that wasn't there before, and people feel it immediately upon meeting you. Nobody can put a finger on exactly what changed, but everyone knows something fundamental shifted in you. You're not trying to impress anyone with false bravado. You're not performing confidence for an audience. You're simply existing in your power, and it radiates naturally from within. The version of you that used to apologize for breathing is gone. The version that made yourself smaller in group settings vanished completely. Now you take up exactly the amount of space you deserve without apology or explanation to anyone. People were never prepared for the moment you would finally choose yourself first. For so long you made everyone else the priority in your life, always showing up for others, always adjusting to their needs, always making room even when it hurt you. You sacrificed your peace just to keep connections alive that were already dead. You said yes when you meant no. You stayed in situations when you should have left immediately, but then it clicked in your mind and heart. Every single time you abandoned yourself to keep the peace with someone else, you weren't actually keeping peace. You were losing yourself piece by piece. And people who benefited from that version of you never expected the day would come when choosing them first would end permanently. That's what has everyone confused and angry. Not because you're heartless now, but because your heart finally came home to you where it belongs. People are not used to seeing you protect your energy like it's precious. You saying, "No, I can't do this," and actually meaning it is unfamiliar to everyone. Watching you walk away without looking back, without explaining yourself in paragraphs, without crumbling into pieces afterward is completely foreign. That strength, that clarity, it's totally alien to people who knew the old version of you, and it should be foreign to them. because you spent so long giving people comfort nobody earned or deserved. Now you're giving yourself the same care you gave everyone else for free. And it's about damn time. You didn't burn bridges in bitterness or revenge. You let them fall because everything was one-sided, cracked and structurally unstable. You stopped being the one always doing all the emotional labor in every relationship. You stopped being the glue holding together things that were only meant to fall apart naturally. And from where you're standing now, on the healed side, the honest side, the free side, you can finally breathe without someone's chaos suffocating you. This isn't payback against anyone. This isn't revenge for past hurts. This is self-respect in its purest form. You're not trying to hurt anyone intentionally. You're just refusing to hurt yourself anymore for the sake of keeping others comfortable. You've simply stopped setting yourself on fire to keep everyone else warm. You shocked people not because you became cruel or vindictive, but because you finally became clear about your worth and boundaries. You chose yourself, and everyone is still trying to figure out how to exist in a world where being your priority isn't guaranteed anymore. The wildest part is watching people try to figure out what happened to you. Everyone is replaying conversations in their heads, trying to pinpoint the exact moment you changed. People are analyzing your behavior, looking for signs of who you used to be. Some are testing boundaries, hoping to find a crack in your resolve. But nobody will find one, because this isn't a phase you're going through. This isn't you being petty or playing games for attention. This is genuine transformation at the soul level. You're not pretending to be unbothered. You actually are unbothered by opinions that used to control you. You're not faking indifference. You genuinely don't care about their opinion of your boundaries anymore. And that authenticity in your detachment is what makes it so powerful and unbreakable. You've seen what fake love looks like up close and personal, how it shows up dressed in sweet words and warm gestures, but folds the moment honesty, presence or accountability gets requested from it. You've been through the emotional tug-of-war where someone swears love exists, but somehow you're always the one doing all the emotional heavy lifting in the relationship. That version of love used to convince you to lower your guard and let people in, but not anymore. Now you're wide awake to the games. You no longer mistake charm for character. You don't confuse passion for peace. You've learned through painful experience that real love doesn't bulldoze boundaries. It respects them fully. It doesn't flinch when you ask for clarity. It doesn't punish you with silence when you hold it accountable for actions. You've outgrown the kind of love that demands access but refuses to earn it through consistent action. People used to slip past your defenses by saying all the right things at the right moments. "I love you" would come right after they disrespected you. "I care about you" would follow them, completely ignoring your needs. But that manipulation no longer works on you. You see what people do when they can't get their way with you. That's where real character shows up without a mask. You're not impressed by grand gestures anymore. You're moved by integrity and consistency. You don't care how much someone says love exists if their behavior creates chaos in your life. You know now that real love is not afraid of boundaries. It grows within them. If someone's love collapses the moment you ask for basic respect, that wasn't love. It was control disguised as care. And the beautiful part is you don't argue about it anymore. You just disconnect quietly. You've leveled up beyond the games. You no longer defend your boundaries in long explanations. You let them speak for themselves. And if someone can't meet you there, being that close to you was never meant to happen. You used to wear nice like it was your entire identity and personality. Always available, always forgiving, always understanding even when people were clearly taking advantage of your kindness. You thought being nice would protect you somehow, that it would make people treat you better in return. Instead, it became your most dangerous form of self-betrayal. You weren't being kind to yourself. You were self-sacrificing to an extreme degree. You ignored your own needs to keep others comfortable. You gave time, energy, love, patience, all while silently hoping someone would see the value of your heart and finally give back what you deserved. But nobody did. And not because it wasn't possible, but because it was never necessary with you. Your niceness gave everyone permission to take without giving, to damage without consequence, to disappoint you repeatedly without ever being held accountable for their actions. But something clicked in your awareness. You realized that kindness without boundaries isn't love. It's abandonment of yourself. You were abandoning yourself to maintain connections that were rooted in complete imbalance. And for what purpose? To avoid conflict, to avoid looking mean, to be seen as the good person. That version of you was dying inside while everyone else stayed fed from your overflow. Now you've retired from being everyone's emotional life raft. You've let go of the need to save people from their own chaos and consequences. You no longer step in where you're not invited or hold space for people who refuse to grow up. Your kindness now has requirements attached to it. Accountability, respect, reciprocity. That doesn't make you heartless. It makes you wise. You finally understand that love doesn't mean tolerating disrespect from anyone, that forgiveness doesn't mean unlimited chances to hurt you, that compassion doesn't mean being a doormat for everyone. Being nice without standards was how you betrayed yourself the most. Now you say no without guilt following. You walk away without lengthy explanations. You give your energy where it's earned, not where it's merely expected or demanded. You're not less kind than before. You're more discerning about where you place that kindness. That shift isn't bitterness or resentment. It's emotional maturity finally emerging. You still love deeply, but now you love yourself too. You still give generously, but now you make sure you're not the only one pouring into the relationship. And anyone who calls you selfish for protecting your peace was only interested in the version of you that didn't know how to choose yourself. You became a boundary-chosen one, not just someone who sets boundaries occasionally. You are a living boundary. You used to absorb everything around you, every emotion in the room, every tension in conversations, every subtle jab disguised as jokes. You carried other people's trauma like it was yours to fix and heal. You were the emotional sponge, bending yourself to meet everyone's needs, while slowly bleeding out inside where nobody could see. But now you've transformed into something else entirely. You're no longer a sponge, you're a filter. You don't let everything in anymore. You don't accept every vibe, every request, every excuse thrown your way. You've become a living, breathing boundary. And people who used to flood your space with their dysfunction are shocked, offended, or suddenly very quiet. Your space is sacred now. Your energy is curated carefully. Your peace is not a group project where everyone contributes their chaos. You no longer let chaos knock on your door and call it love or friendship. Boundary is your new language, and the ones who can't speak it fluently never deserved access to you in the first place. And now that you've tasted what self-respect actually feels like, there's no going back to the version who tolerated being emotionally starved just to keep others full and satisfied. People will say you've changed, and it's absolutely true. You changed into someone who refuses to abandon themselves for the sake of connection. Someone who no longer lets love be a loophole for disrespect. Someone who no longer explains basic human decency to people who know better but choose worse anyway. You don't need validation from people who invalidated you. You don't need applause from an audience that never showed up. You just need alignment, and you found it within yourself. You're no longer moved by emotional theatrics or guilt-tripped into shrinking back down. You don't flinch when people pull away because you've made peace with solitude. You know in your bones it's better to walk alone in truth than be surrounded in comfortable illusion. Your detachment isn't cold like people say. It's sacred space. It's the space where you protect your soul from spiritual squatters and habitual takers who only know how to drain. This is what self-worth sounds like when it finally finds its voice. Quiet, firm, non-negotiable. It doesn't beg for scraps. It doesn't bargain for basics. It doesn't bend to make others comfortable. It simply is what it is, and you've become fluent in speaking it. Let everyone talk about you. Let labels get thrown around carelessly. Let people wrestle with the absence they created through their own actions. None of it touches you anymore. You elevated beyond their reach, not from ego but from pure necessity for survival. You're no longer available to be misunderstood by people who are committed to it. You're no longer sacrificing your spirit to save what was never sacred to begin with. You became the boundary. You became the mirror. You became the consequence. And most importantly, you became the version of yourself people never thought you'd have the courage to be. You're done shrinking to fit into spaces too small for you. You're done bleeding to keep others comfortable. You're done explaining your worth to people who can't see value. You're done performing for approval. You're done waiting for permission to be powerful. The roar has been heard across the jungle. The boundaries are set in stone. The firewall is active and running. The mirror is reflecting truth. And you, chosen one, are finally, completely, unapologetically free. This is your testimony to the world. This is your proof that change is possible. This is your power reclaimed, and it was always yours from the beginning. You just had to stop giving it away to people who never deserved it in the first place. Welcome to the version of you nobody saw coming. The version that doesn't apologize for taking up space. The version that knows its worth and refuses to negotiate it down. The lion has roared, and the whole damn jungle heard